The following is a listener-supported ministry from the Grace Evangelical Society.
Was the New Testament completed before 70 AD? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode. Hi, I'm Lucas Kitchen with the Grace Evangelical Society. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we're currently taking questions from listeners just like you. Do you have a question that keeps you up at night? Well, you can zap it to us through email, radio@faithalone.org. Well, let's go right to today's discussion with Dr. Bob Wilkin and Shawn Lazar. Here's Grace in Focus.
Welcome to Grace in Focus. My name's Shawn Lazar.
Hi, I'm Bob Wilkin.
My kids call you Bobby Baby.
We ain't know why.
That is not their fault. It's your wife's fault.
She puts Bobby Baby in her phone, and she, will tell your kids that I'm Bobby Baby. So then they see me, and I've got 7-year-old, 8-year-olds, and 4-year-olds calling me Bobby Baby.
And I'm like, don't call my boss Bobby Baby. But it was Sharon's fault.
Well, then I called Zane Baby, and he's like, I'm not Baby.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you
I'm like,
about?
But I'm Baby?
Well, I'm glad that you haven't fired me for
No.
So that's good. We're taking your questions that you can send to radio@faithalone.org. Are you ready to take some questions? We work in the office. We're working on this book called Doctrine for Disciples. At least that's what I was working on today.
Good.
And you're doing a book review on...
Basically, it's the Gospels as myth, so it's interesting.
That's not what you're arguing. That's what the author is exploring. But then we have to kind of drop those things and just do radio.
Right.
And in some way, it's a good break.
Right.
Because sometimes it's hard to... You kind of get slogged into a project and you need to just switch gears to refresh yourself.
Well, that's one of the things I really appreciate about Grace Evangelical Society and what we get the privilege of doing, and that is there's so much variety.
Right.
I mean, we're answering emails, we're getting phone calls, we're going and speaking in places, we're writing blogs, we're doing podcasts, we're writing books, we're writing journal articles, and we're writing magazine articles, and we're editing things, and it's kind of nice to be able to shift. However, it's also nice, I was talking to you yesterday about the fact that it's nice to get into the zone and go hours where you're so fixed on what you're doing, you can't stand to even go up for a bathroom break.
Right, the zone, yeah, exactly. You're like, I need to pee, but oh man, the zone is gold.
Right.
When things are clicking and you just have a great insight, or the prose is flowing and you're just able to write something that is good, which isn't always. Sometimes you write and you're like, this is okay, but sometimes when you write something and you're like, wow, did I write this? This is amazing.
I know, I've had that experience, and when you're in that zone, you don't want to leave it. I remember I took a class years ago. It was some junior college, and I was taking a class on delegation or something, and the teacher of the class was talking about the fact that some people get so caught up in what they're doing they won't even stop to pee, and they'll just sit there squirming. And he's like, that's so stupid. And I'm thinking, no,
it's not. I understand. I mean, that's why we have a stack of diapers in the office. I'm joking. We don't have that. But are you ready to answer some questions?
Let's get down to the questions.
Because this is part of switching gears. Let's see if we can do this. So this is from Ron, and Ron says, I heard you say that all New Testament books were written prior to 70 A.D. To me, that's a trigger phrase for a preterist or preterist. Is that your theological bent? ? Let's explain what that is first of all. What is a preterist?
Okay, a preterist is someone who believes that all of the prophecies that are found in the book of Revelation have already been fulfilled.
Now, are you a preterist?
No.
Are you even remotely a preterist?
No. I remember hearing Hank Hanegraaff debate, I believe it was Mark Hitchcock, at the pre-trib study group, and Hanegraaff had become a full preterist. There are some partial preterists who believe that most of the book of Revelation has already been fulfilled, but there's some future aspects, but Hanegraaff became a full preterist.
Oh.
So he was debating the date of the book of Revelation, and he was arguing that the book of Revelation was written, I think he argued, for the date which I consider most accurate, which is late 69, early 70 A.D. And Hitchcock was arguing for somewhere between 80 and 90, something like that, A.D. And I remember thinking Hitchcock won the debate, but the reason he won the debate is that Hanegraaff didn't do a really good job of defending the earlier date for the Book of Revelation, and I thought it was a shame. But here's the thing. It's not just preterists who believe in an early date for the Book of Revelation. It's anyone who has been influenced by, I guess it was Robinson, who was a liberal New Testament scholar, but he argued that the entire New Testament was written before 70 A.D. and the destruction of the temple, because he said surely if the temple had already been destroyed, gospel writers or epistolary writers or the author of the Book of Revelation would mention the fact that the temple was destroyed, because that's such a key prophetic event.
Right.
It's a prophetic event in the Gospels. It's a prophetic event all the way through the New Testament, and it's an event that affects everything that follows.
So it'd be like someone writing a history of New York City and failing to mention that the Twin Towers were destroyed.
I think that's a great example. If you wrote a book and you have the Twin Towers still standing and you mention nothing about them being destroyed,
and you're saying this is a history of New York,
then it would be fair to say that book was written before September 11th, 2001.
It must not have happened. Yeah, that event must not have happened yet.
Yeah, that's a great illustration.
Right.
I'm going to steal that.
Are you going to steal that? Okay, you can steal that. Because remember, the gospel writers, they are writing about Jerusalem. Jesus did talk about what would happen to Jerusalem. So you would expect if Jerusalem had been destroyed, they would have at least had a comment, at least a parenthetical remark, and by the way, this happened, or something.
Right. Now, most people don't take the Gospels as written after 70 A.D., but a lot of people take, even conservatives, take the Book of Revelation as well as 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John and think they were all written somewhere between around 80 and 90. And, of course, liberals think some of the books in the New Testament were written in the 2nd century.
I was going to say Robinson would have been, the people he was writing to would have thought that the Gospel of Matthew was written by the Matthean community sometime late in the 1st or early 2nd century.
Right.
And so he was saying, no. If it was, they would have mentioned the destruction of Jerusalem.
Right. Let me bring this out. I'm a dispensationalist.
Right.
That means I believe there are distinct ways in which God has dealt with people over the course of human history. 7 major ways, some of which are yet future. The Book of Revelation deals with, first of all, the things you have seen, Revelation 1, the things which would be Revelation 2 and 3, that's the letters to the 7 churches, and the things which shall be, and that's Revelation chapters 4 through 22, with 4 through 19 dealing with the tribulation, chapter 20 the millennium, 21 and 22 the new earth and the eternal state. And so, yes, I see the whole thing as future, but there's an interesting verse in Revelation chapter 17, starting about verse 9. Maybe you could read 9 through 11, Shawn.
Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. So this clarifies something for you?
Okay. Well, first of all, some translations are going to say there are 7 kingdoms, or some people interpret this to refer to 7 kingdoms. If it refers to 7 kings, well, then this would be 7 of the Caesars. This would date the Book of Revelation, because 5 have fallen means 5 of the Caesars have died.
Okay.
1 is, that would be the 6th, that would be Otho, who reigned between late 69 and early 70.
Okay.
And the other has not yet come. When he comes, he must continue for a short time. The beast that was not himself is also the 8th and is of the 7. Some argue that one of the original 7 Caesars, maybe Caesar Augustus, his spirit is going to be brought back from Hades and allowed to basically possess the beast. Remember, who gets this mortal head wound but survives?
Right.
That he will be there and he will be released for 7 years to basically inhabit the body of the beast. But in any case, I think this dates the book because you have 7 kings, 5 are not, 1 is, another is going to come for a short time. And that places it in late 69, early 70. And I may have gotten the dating a little bit wrong. Maybe it's Otho that's between 69. I did say that. It was between late 69 and early 70. But he may be shortly after the one he's writing. But in any case, I think this establishes the date of the book of Revelation. And also, of course, you have the argument that he doesn't mention the destruction of the temple, which would be quite fitting if this book was written as late as the 80s or 90s. And besides, we don't need the book of Revelation to be late in order for dispensationalism to be true. I mean, the book of Revelation could have been written in the 40s, 50s, or 60s and still be future.
Sure.
I mean, it could have been written 400 BC.
Yeah, and it could still be future.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So to answer Ron's question, you or we, GES, dispensationalists in general, are not preterists. We don't believe that the prophecies of the Olivet Discourse or the book of Revelation were fulfilled in the past. We're not historicists. A lot of the reformers, like Luther and Calvin, were historicists. They thought the prophecies of Revelation were fulfilled in history.
Right.
Like the Pope is the Antichrist. I think that was actually part of the Westminster Confession of Faith. So we're not historicists either. We are futurists. We think all of those prophecies have yet to be fulfilled in the future.
Right.
Right. Is there any book that you would recommend to study prophecy?
Well, I think Dr. Walvoord has a number of them, including a commentary on Revelation that would be helpful. Dr. Ryrie has his basic Bible doctrine and basic theology, and those would have sections discussing eschatology. They'd be helpful. We have a commentary on Revelation by Bob Vasendek. Now, he actually takes a later date for the book of Revelation. Actually, he was influenced by that debate with Hank Hanegraaff and changed his view. And there are a number of other sources. Tommy Ice and the Pre-Trib Study Group have a lot of books and things which would be helpful. And we've got lots of articles on our website.
All right, thank you, Bob, and thank you for the question, Ron. We hope to hear from you guys. Just send us your questions to radio@faithalone.org.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that great discussion. Did you miss an episode of Grace in Focus that you really wanted to hear? Just come to faithalone.org. That's faithalone.org. And we have all our past episodes right there on the site. In addition to this, we have all kinds of other free resources available for you. It's all designed to help you mature and grow in your understanding of Scripture. So come visit us at faithalone.org. That's faithalone.org. On this program, we keep our requests for financial partners to a minimum. But if you are interested in becoming a financial partner with Grace in Focus, you can find out how to do that also at faithalone.org. Our team is really great about answering questions, comments, and feedback. If you've got some, we hope to hear from you. Let me give you our email address so you can do just that. It's radio@faithalone.org. That's radio@faithalone.org. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to talk about whether loving and obeying God is a condition for eternal salvation. So tune in for that. I'm Lucas Kitchen with the Grace Evangelical Society. And until next time, let's keep Grace in Focus.
The proceeding has been a listener-supported ministry from the Grace Evangelical Society.